Our Walmart just got the Pillsbury Doughboy with the like the pumpkin and the ghost in it as well. I bought 4 packets. Like I'm so obsessed with Halloween food and candy. I've
Yeah.
had pumpkins out since August, filled with like Halloween candy because obviously Costco is on the
Yeah.
same schedule that I'm on. So-
I want to ask really off the hop is how are things going your way? Like how like really getting into it. Like I know we're still kind of in COVID.
yeah,
Newfoundland, I feel like we're a little bit more or less out of the woods. We're on an
yeah.
island, so we're out of the woods on everything in general. But how are things your way with COVID?
Good. I mean, I'm in Vancouver, so I feel like we're actually kind of going back a stage. I know starting Monday, there's the vaccine passport, and a lot of events have shut down. I was supposed to do a festival first week of September that got completely shut down because we were hoping to get into stage 4. We did not. Our numbers are not getting better. I think that it's frustrating, but I've really learned to see that my industry is not just about touring and you can actually do better online. You kind of do it from like the safety of your home. I've definitely become an introvert through
Yeah.
the last 2 years. I'm enjoying it. I like my little routine, my little pork chop dinner and then bed by 8. Um, that's a little extreme, but it's definitely the pork chop dinner part. It's been okay. Last year I feel like it was a little bit easier. COVID didn't feel as real. This year it's definitely a lot more serious. I'm still writing, hopefully releasing. There might be a single coming out not too
Yeah.
late in the year. And I'm actually full-fledged Christmas mode right now. So I'm in the middle of writing a Christmas album. So
Oh, okay. That works perfectly for me. I'm all about Christmas, and I love
I'm
that when you go
all
on when you go on social media now. I believe like Tyler Shaw even had a little thing. Like I love when people like kind of sneak it, but without like having the whole I guess story be about it. Like he literally sat there or whatever, stood there for like 10 seconds, and in the last 3 seconds, he's like, "Yeah, I'm working on a Christmas album." I'm like, okay, you got me in.
yeah,
Um,
hooked.
yeah, well, yeah, a lot of people are doing it. Like I think I can't remember the band's name, but it's sponsored on like Instagram, and they do a lot of like I guess it's like Korean pop too. Now they're a U.S. act, but they even said like, oh yeah, we're doing Christmas in July. Who does Christmas songs in July? But like, you'd be surprised that there's a lot of people that are like Christmas in July. It's like Hallmark has a whole thing about Christmas in July movies.
I know.
Yeah,
I know it's crazy. I feel like the next one I'd like to work on is like a Halloween album. I'm like so seasonal. I
yeah,
start celebrating all my seasonal stuff 4 months before it actually happens. So I've been doing Halloween for 2 months.
yeah,
I'll start Christmas in about a couple weeks here, and I feel like that's something people don't do are the Halloween songs, and I'm all about the
yeah.
spooky and it's a great party. So maybe next year.
Yeah, it kind of skips over for me. It's almost like once September comes, it's like all right, Christmas. People are like
Christmas.
you have your birthday in October and Halloween. I'm like, yeah, but once Halloween's over, it's full Christmas mode regardless. But yeah, I do find that you're right. There's not a lot of Halloween songs.
Yeah.
Actually, if I was Ed Sheeran's marketing team, I'd be like, Bad Habits to me should have came out around now. I
Yeah.
don't know why it came out. Like again, I'm not going in Ed Sheeran's label and be like, yo, listen, I'm a 29-year-old. I know it all. They're like, yeah, Ed Sheeran's doing okay. I'm like, but listen,
Yeah.
just listen to
Speaking
me.
truth.
Yeah, he's doing fine, and who knows? He might have like with his new album out now. It's like or in October, whenever it comes out, he'll have like maybe a song that's kind of that
Spooky.
spooky vibe, and you're like, all
Yeah.
right. They're like, we told you. I'm like, listen, I didn't know.
I feel like years ago when like the Family Channel and Disney Channel was really bopping and you got to see all the music videos, a lot of Halloween music came out,
Yeah,
and now it's just nobody cares. But
yeah.
maybe music's just too disposable now, and they just know it's not going to have a return the next year.
Yeah, maybe. We have like so the family. I know when we went to a trip in Florida, I've seen a lot of like the Disney Channel, like the actual like it was like as a 16-year-old, I felt like I'm a little bit out of my element here, but at the same point, it's like watching The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, and then seeing them do, "Hey, you're watching Disney." I'm like, hold the phone. In Canada, we don't see the Zach and Cody Disney. We see like
No.
maybe Ashley Tisdale do it. I'm like, this is kind of interesting in
Yeah.
itself. But yeah, I do remember seeing a lot of like the Halloween stuff. Like I think they did a lot of good promotions. Like I believe Selena Gomez had Cruella de Vil, like she did a song for that, and she was still in like
Yes!
Wizard of Waverly Place, and I
I
was like,
forgot about that.
good marketing because you're kind of
Yeah.
expanding her from okay, this is what she's going into. But I think the one that really stands out up here for Family Channel is, and I would have loved to have her on to actually mention it too, but like they used to do these like little clips in between shows. I think they were doing a clip with Michelle Branch of how she got her break with Santana or her first record, and she was like, "Yeah, she's like I robbed a golf cart," and that's how and I was like, "Hold on, Disney, you're promoting." Basically, she robbed a golf cart, but then again, it's Michelle Branch. So you're like, well, it all worked out, I guess. So,
It's always funny.
yeah, like those clips, but you don't see that as much with any channel. Like YTV here used to have like Carlos and
Oh my
Sugar.
I met him
Yeah.
because, like, way back when your girl was on YTV's The Next Star.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's not one of my proudest moments. And I never quite made it to the point where it actually mattered. It was always like a step behind or like the
Yeah.
virtual star. But I met him and he was just super lovely to talk to. And I actually saw him in an airport one time when I was before that. And I was like, oh my God, it's Carlos! Like
Yeah.
superstar, fangirl. And I feel like television is so different now. I mean, most of it's all just streaming platforms, and Disney Plus is great, and they do an awesome job of having like the Halloween collection where you can,
Yeah.
hit something and it shows all of it. But other than that, like you're right, they don't have the fun specials or the songs or the music videos or the trivia games or late night stuff, and it's just weird. It's not as special.
It's like I used to love Family Channel, like watching it on weekends, watching it like pretty much all day. Because I remember on weekends, people would try to literally drag me out of the house because I'm like, dude, Boy Meets World is on. There's Smart Guy, even Stevens. Like you are not dragging me away.
Stevens. Oh my god,
Yeah.
what a classic.
Yeah, you're not dragging me away from this. But like the only time that I guess you could get me away from Family Channel is like September, early October comes around, then every second ad is like, one of the famous Halloween movies is like Halloween Town, Halloween.
Oh my
like
god, I've literally
like-
watched it 4 times already this month.
yeah. And there was like I guess Hocus Pocus and other ones too. But like as soon as those started coming on, I was like, all right, now I'm gonna start watching a little less Disney. Not because I don't like Halloween movies. It's just like you're just over promoting this too
Yeah.
much. Where I'm like, all right, October, blah blah blah. At this hour, I'm not watching it because I know this is on. But
That's when I like dove right in. It was shutting the door. You couldn't get me outside. I looked like a hermit.
Yeah. It's like, where's Madison to? It's like, actually, it's that time of the month. It's like, oh, she's having, no, it's not that time of the month.
It's
It's the
Halloween.
other time of the month. Yeah.
My teeth turn into candy corn.
Yeah. Oh, you like candy corn?
I love candy corn.
Oh, man, I can't stand candy corn.
Oh, really?
It's-
Okay. Our Walmart just got the Pillsbury Doughboy with the pumpkin and the ghost in it as well. I bought 4 packets. Like, I'm so obsessed with Halloween food and candy. I've had pumpkins out since August, filled with like Halloween candy because obviously Costco is on the same schedule that I'm on. So
Well, I went into Walmart the other night and they had a few Halloween stuff up, but they did have like the blow up Grinches and stuff in the back, like in the way back.
Yes,
and like
yes.
and then I was like saying to my mom, I'm like, it's starting, and she was like, shut the hell up. And I was like, don't worry, we're in Newfoundland. No one's gonna put this stuff up. It's so windy. Like we literally, if anyone even came to me like today and said, hey, we're thinking about getting like really big things that we can put up. I'm like, did hurricane not affect you and whatever? Because like,
and that's coming right, or did it just happen? I know you guys are on
it like happened. I believe by the time this gets posted, but anyway, like it just kind of happened. But yeah, it was crazy. I was pretty much up like the whole night just looking at my basketball net that's in the ground and just seeing it shake. I'm like, dear God,
gosh.
like you can leave me single for another 10 years if you want to. Just don't ruin my basketball net. And he's like, done. We made this compromise when you were in grade 5.
No
where you
questions.
Yeah, we made this compromise in grade 5 when you're like grades or girls, and you made the mistake of grades. Now we're gonna do this again at 29 where you're like basketball net or girls. I'm like, just save the basketball net. They're like, done. I'm like, yeah, I should have
girls
better.
are disposable, but you can always play ball.
Yeah, it's like I like playing ball in the comfort of my home. I don't want someone there just like, but a girl can be good company. I'm like, so can a basketball, and plus I can bounce around a basketball. No one looks at me weird.
Right?
I want to ask because like we'll eventually get into the whole music side of things, but this podcast is basically not your standard Q&A, so it goes everywhere, which I enjoy. But when you were talking about the Family Channel and Halloween, I know we kind of went off the point of they kind of promote Halloween, and that's when I tune out, but you obviously tune in. But I came back to tune in when I seen like I could be wrong about this. Now I know Much Music did it, and I feel like Disney or Family would do it, but it was like Hilary Duff's Santa Claus Lane, 98 Degrees, This Gift, which I think is still cheesy, but I still have it on my iPad because I'm like, and I dated it. I should say iPhone, but anyway, it's like I still have it because I'm like, you know what? I kind of like this song, so like let it be.
Oh yeah. No, I think wasn't there also a Lizzie McGuire episode with, I want to say Jesse McCartney was in it, and it was like a total Christmas one, and she like snuck onto this film set. I can't believe I remember this. And they like filmed this music video with Jesse McCartney, and that is probably the most iconic Christmas episode I can ever
Now the only reason that I remember this, and I feel like I'll go with 98% that I'm confident in this answer. I think it was Aaron Carter.
Oh,
because,
thank you. Yes.
Because at this time it was like the whole thing where it was like Hilary Duff and Lindsay Lohan were almost like his side, like his girlfriends, and then they had this whole, and I'm like, oh great, 2 Disney girls going after Aaron Carter
with some cute blonde pop singer anyway. So Jesse McCartney, Aaron Carter, they're both kind of
it's fair. For the longest time, it's interesting. I do this kind of podcast. For the longest time, I'd be like playing wrestling with my friends on video games, and he had a sister that would collect all the pop magazines, and I seen like Jesse McCartney on the cover. I'm like, who is that? And then like, how old are you? How do you not know these people? I'm like, I'm terrified for myself. I don't know what's trending now. And I feel like now I'm after catching up to that point where I have a neighbor on the street that plays basketball. And as a joke, they're only like 10. They call her Billie Eyelash. And I'm like, I don't know if you know it's Billie Eilish, or are you trying to convince me that she's changed her name to Billie Eyelash? And it's like, you're behind the times. I'm like, I don't keep up with you.
I'm ahead of the times. Like, you need to keep up with me.
Yeah. It's like mentioned Backstreet Boys to like some kids, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, I literally put music on when I play basketball, and I feel like my age group, they will love the 90s stuff. And then this, like, the neighbors I have now, because we're in like a youthful community, they want to hear Dua Lipa, Ed Sheeran. But like, yeah, the moment you don't even put on like something very old, it could be like Lady Gaga, Poker Face, and they're like, who is this? And I'm just like, I have to go inside and never come back out. I'm scared.
It's crazy. It is so crazy. And I feel like that's kind of been a problem with music. And it's, as a musician, there's like the pros and the cons. And I know we weren't talking about the music side, but it just naturally went that way. Go ahead. But music has become so disposable, whereas maybe Disney was great with that, where they constantly just played the same 5 or 6 songs over and over. It was like the Jonas Brothers or Miley Cyrus, or maybe it was a Hannah Montana song if you were lucky. But you were kind of like, it was the same songs over and over, and it took a long time for them to release another single. So you waited and you fell in love with it and you listened to it. And now artists come out with a new song every Friday and people are over it so quickly. Yeah. Like things with Tic Toc, like, you're trending and then you're just so irrelevant. It's really wild, and I don't know if it's a good thing because it makes room for people to blow up, or maybe it's a bad thing because it's super easy to come and go. But it's really interesting to see how it's changed.
I feel like, so the example, I don't want to put him on the spot here, but it's like, I hope we don't take it the wrong way, because I guess in a way I'm trying to go agree with you in this sense, but it's like, Eric Etheridge, like a Canadian country singer, like he came out with Dream Girl not that long ago, and we had him on a podcast talking about it. But I feel like if it was back in, just say, the early 2000s, you would still be talking about Eric Etheridge's Dream Girl, like depending on how well it was promoted and whatever. You'd be like, oh, it's like, that's a good song. It's like, I can't wait for the next one. But like literally now, with all, like you just said, it's like Dream Girl, and it's like, okay, feed me more, inject me with more songs. It's like, I don't have any. I actually stayed and produced this for like a year just so that this would be out in a year. It's like, okay, I heard it, I want more. It's like, what's next? I don't have more.
I know it's so crazy, and the cost to record a song is so expensive now too. So an artist will spend a whole year saving up, and then they'll release it, and they're like, hey, what's next? And you're like, well, let me just empty out my pockets. I'll sell my kidney.
It's like, I remember growing up, and I was a big fan of Backstreet Boys, and I think I had like 2 or 3 CDs, and like when you're younger, you would have like 2 or 3 singles in the span of maybe a year, and that was it. Like, and then that's your CD. And then they'd come out with maybe, or give it like, I guess, a year and a half, whatever. But you're like, okay, I got this CD, and then they give it a year, maybe 2 years, whatever, and then another CD. But like, you would look at that CD and you're like, okay, you put out 3 songs, but there's 12 on here. Like, why don't you release all 12? It's like, well, they're trying to make money, obviously.
Yeah.
So they're right. So they've got 3 songs here. Then the next one will have 3 hits. But like that, I feel like, again, I'm not a musician, so I feel like that works. But today, I think a lot of musicians say like it takes a while to stream, and then people listen to your song, and then I will be guilty of this too, where it takes me like maybe 3 or 4 listens before I'm really like, okay, did this stay with me? And then it's almost like as shitty as it sounds, but to people out there, it's like, do I want to pay $1.99 for this? It's like, really? Do you want to pay $1.99 for this? It's like, but then you used to go out and buy an album for like $20 that had 10 songs, and you didn't even know what the other 8. Yeah. But now all of a sudden it's like, I hear a little bit of a sample. I think it's good. I'll download it. And then it's like, oh, well, she has 3 other songs. It's like, I got to pick one out of the 3 that I really like. It's like, okay.
Or you just go to their YouTube and like listen to all their like free audio files.
Yeah. Or you just do like what the classic, well, we don't have LimeWire now, but it's like you used to go to like YouTube to MP4 converter. I'm like, there you go. I didn't have to pay the artist. I'm like, I understand if you're a student that's like pretty much broke and you want to listen to like whatever, support them in another way, retweet it, reshare it, whatever. But like if you're making good money, I don't see why you can't contribute like the dollar too. But there's probably like when this episode goes up, there's going to be people like, oh yeah, it's easy for you to say. I'm like, I guess, but
or even like Spotify, you can do like the free stuff now for. I guess you just get the ads, or do they offer the free Spotify? I don't even know.
I think it's like, I think I see it every so often where I know with like all these different apps, it's like YouTube for 3 months where you avoid ads. And I think it's Spotify. You can, the thing that and maybe it's just me with Spotify, is that I will go to find a song that I like, and then they'll play me a whole different song by like that artist. I'm like, but I came here for this one. And I'm like, yeah, but you might like this one. I'm like,
radio.
Yeah.
That, you know what? Spotify is one of those ones too where like you either love it or you hate it. And I have like artist friends who can't stand Spotify and they love Apple and iTunes. And I'm just like the only one that's ever given support to like the extent of being like, wow, this is really exciting, has been Spotify. And I cannot stand the other platforms. And I think it's just super funny. I think it's pretty like dummy proof as well, like it's pretty user friendly.
I feel like for me it's like growing up with like iTunes and the whole Windows Media Library, like I get it, like so when you want to go download someone's song, it's like iTunes is like right there where it's like, here's a sample, here's other songs, so it feels like that's a little bit more, I guess, user friendly, right? But I like Spotify in the sense that they're the ones that are coming out on Instagram and stuff saying, do you like the indie pop mix? Do you like this mix? We just started this. And artists will then share it and be like, oh, thank you. Like, I think Robin Ottolini was like, thank you for adding me to like the country pop list. I'm like, that's giving them more exposure, which is good. And I believe the actual reason I came across yours, and I hope this isn't insulting to you, but it was like, just you go through social media, you go through things on Instagram. And I believe it was like a sponsored ad came up where I think it was indie pop that was like in Spotify. And I thought, oh, like this is a really catchy song. And I kind of joke with people that sometimes I like that they don't advertise. Not that I'm shitting on Canada, but like sometimes there's that whole like, oh, it's a Canadian act, like whatever. So I was just like, this doesn't sound very Canadianist to me. This sounds like something that like I was like, oh, it's like this sounds like something that could have been from the States. And then when I seen the image artwork too, I was like, it's like, man, she kind of reminds me of like a Hannah Montana.
I'll take it. I'll totally take it. I cut my mullet last summer to look just like Miley, so that's the greatest compliment.
I want to give you this compliment too, just because I think it's interesting. Like, again, everyone has, and we mentioned this on the podcast too, like people overcome obstacles, people have their own little battles that they face. But I like that you were kind of vocal about it. I believe on one of your Instagram posts, you're like, you didn't like your eyes for some reason. And like, I get that with someone that has like big ass ears. Like when someone's just like, did you hear us from over there? I'm like, duh. I'm like, or it's like,
you know what's so funny? I can't even see your ears. And I think that's the, like, literally the funniest thing. I always talk about how sometimes I feel like my eyes are too big. My nose is too big. I have a very, like, Polish family, and sometimes we have a schnoz. And it's like such a big insecurity. And I'll talk to friends who are like, oh, your nose is my favorite part of you. And it's just so funny how we can pick apart ourselves. And you talking about your ears, like I didn't even notice your ears at all, and I still don't even notice them. So
it's just because like the way I'm turned. One minute I'll just turn over this way and be like, damn, that's a big ass ear he got, and I'll be like thank you. I remember it's like I love Adam Sandler, but at the point that I think it was in one of the movies, I think it's like The Longest Yard or something. I don't know which line it is, but someone was like, do you pick up stuff, or like, do you pick up radio on those ears? And I was just like, and when I went to school, that was like the go-to thing to make fun of me, was like, and I was just like, man, I don't like you, Adam Sandler. Why did you make this easy for them?
Such a good joke. And
yeah. It's like there are other Adam Sandler jokes that you're like, oh, I'll use it against them. But then this one was just like, you pick up radio on that thing. I'm just like, where'd you hear that from? They're like, did you see The Longest Yard? I'm like, no, Adam, no. Why did you do this to me?
Betrayal.
yeah. I want to ask you, because it's, the best part of me. I believe that's the song.
Yeah.
When I was listening to that on Spotify. Now, again, like I said, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm still giving it a few listens before actually downloading it, but it has stuck in my mind. So that's stage two. Stage two for me is like, hey, it's trending, it's getting there. Now, if I had my niece or nephew over, they'd be like, just download the damn song. You listen to it enough. I'm like, you're right. I should probably do that. And I probably will next time I'm like on iTunes. But I want to ask you, like, tell me a little bit of the thought process behind that song. And like, I've seen that people have done remixes of that. Like, I know some people kind of are like bittersweet towards remixes, where they're like, I like the original better. And then some artists is like, you can like what you like. I think this remix is great. Like, what's your take on all that?
I mean, sometimes I think a remix is almost better than the original, depending on what you want out of it. If you want to go to a festival and rave out to it, definitely remixes, better for that. It depends if you're a purist. With like acoustic songs, sometimes I think that they're better on the original side. But with the best part of me, it was kind of a funny story. I was down in Nashville for a couple weeks, and it was like my first time to Nashville by myself, and I was super scared. I was in this house where it was like a shared Airbnb, and this grown man left a mess in the bathroom, and it was terrifying. Like, I'll leave it super polite, but as a 20-year-old, I did not want to have to clean up after this grown-ass 40-year-old man's mess on the ground. And there was a really bad like rainstorm. I was supposed to go to this writing session with two people. I had no idea who they were, and I was like, look at my Uber app. It was like a $300 Uber one way, because there was like a weather surge charge or whatever, and I was like, what the hell? Okay, I'm canceling. It's ridiculous. And then I was like, okay, fine. The introvert in me won. I'm not gonna go to this writing session and be out of my comfort zone. And then the next day they're like, well, do you guys want to write? And it was a really weird situation. It was like an hour away. I didn't know either of them. We like had coffee, didn't know them, and then I was just super anxietal, which isn't normally my thing either. Like, I mean, anxiety I do struggle with a lot, but I never let it get the best of me when it comes to my business, because I think music is a creative art form, but it's also business, and you have to be super professional when you like show up to a writing session. And I make sure that whatever I'm struggling with internally, I never let affect a write or somebody else's experience with me. But it was the first time where I was like, I just really want to lay on the floor and cry today. And they're like, that's a really good line for a song. We should write that. And I was like, oh, okay. And so it was just really good that I was having a bad day. We got to write about it. And then I kind of just sat on the song. I liked it. I was like, well, we'll see what happens with it. I wrote a couple other songs. And then a girl who didn't end up using the song was filming a movie in BC. It was like an indie project, and she said, hey, my song's all about like mental health and women who struggle with it. Do you have any music that would be up that alley? And I was like, well, I kind of have a song about mental health, but it isn't produced. So I could reach out to producer, and the producer I work with is Ryan Worsley, and he said, yeah, we could produce this up. And so he and I kind of like fixed up some lyrics, and then we produced it, and it didn't end up getting used, but the song ended up just being a perfect little anthem, especially because 2020 was just about to hit. I think people who have struggled with mental health really struggled in 2020 and 2021 with the isolation and just the chaos that we're living in. And so I think it was all meant to be with that song. It was a song that wasn't going to be released, and I'm glad that it was.
Yeah, like I think it's interesting because sometimes when you look at social media and you see like people kind of reach out to an artist or like it. Now I'm not on the music side of things. It'd be funny if I wrote a song that'd be like, "Oh, this really helped me through my mental health." I'd be like, "Dude, all I literally said in that song was yodelay," and they'd be like, "Yeah, that really helped me. That cheered me up." I'm like, "Oh, do you, man? Yeah, do you?" But like, I seen one the other day, and I think either you shared it or I think you liked it. I don't even know if it was Twitter, but it was like someone from Vancouver. I don't know if they were from Cantaloops or somewhere out there, but they were like, yeah, it's like, I didn't even know this artist was from like BC, and like now I follow her and like I like her music, and I'm like, that has to kind of, I guess in like the hometown sense, like kind of reach out to you in somewhat of a way, like someone from that area just goes like, man, I didn't even know she was from my area, but now that she is, I'm kind of glad to call her one of my own. Like, I know it's a weird way of putting it, but does that kind of like reach out to you of like, man, okay, like, does it kind of motivate you or be like, oh, this is cool, people actually notice that I'm doing things here?
I totally thought like my whole identity was built off of music, and I just assumed people thought that I was the weird music geek from high school that bullied me, and she
You're
just
not?
with it.
No.
But apparently I'm not. And I talked to people and they're like, I had no idea that you're a musician. I was like, oh, what? But like, that's what my whole social media is about, but okay.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting though, because I think there's a fear of becoming a musician and then that being your whole identity and you get consumed by it or lost. But it's nice to know that people still think of me as just like a person who plays music rather than the musician or a musician. Like I'm just a person who likes music. And so it's kind of nice to have that. And obviously in my hometown, I'm super, super proud that people like the music there and they want to support me. Not because I'm from there, but because they actually really like the music. And I think that's always a good feeling. And I mean, also, you know, they have to because I'm local.
Yeah. I feel I can really relate to that because I'm a Newfoundlander and I'm like, dude, guys, I'm a Newfoundlander. Support me. They're like, yeah, but how many funny Newfoundlanders are there out there? I'm like, okay, point taken. Yeah. I have friends I have on like Facebook that I know that I don't have a podcast. And like, I will, like, I know it's not maybe the most professional way of doing things, but if I go live, I put it on like my own Facebook and then I put it on like Tobin Tonight's Facebook and like wherever. But I feel like there's still a crowd out there that's like 3 years after and they've probably kept up with me to like, so what do you do? I'm like, I do podcasting. Like literally I post live a lot of the times and they're like, oh, I thought that was just you interviewing friends. I'm like, well, yeah, they're my friends now, but you know, like, you know, come on. But I'm okay with it. It kind of keeps you humble, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right.
Not
like imagine
more of that, but
yeah. Imagine if you were like, you know, over the moon every time you put like, what do you mean you never watched my live? It's like, yeah, we invited Brian out tonight. Don't make a big deal of it. You come up in like a limo with the like jacket on, and be like, hey guys, and they're just like, we told you to keep it subtle. Yeah, it's like how many people actually watched your live? It's like 5. Last week it was only 3. I'm moving up. Like
I went viral.
Yeah, I went viral. I want to ask you too, because I know this is like a love-hate relationship with myself and maybe to others. Well, let's not speak for others. Let's just speak for myself because I don't want to be canceled. But it's like, I don't know how I feel about TikTok. There are times that I like TikTok because like there are original good content. I had this argument with Robin Ottolini where she's like, I think your algorithm's just messed up. I'm like, fair enough. But a lot of the times that I see things, it's just like girls in bikinis doing that whole like doing this with their hands because there's questions on the screens and then doing the whole I don't know thing with their, and I'm just like, I don't get that. There's ones where it's literally like the robotic voice where it's like, I took my dog out to see a dentist, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, like the Siri voiceover?
Yeah, so I don't like those, but how's your relationship with TikTok? Because I know you kind of use TikTok not only for your music side, but like I believe one of the ones that I stumbled across was you saying it was like you dancing with your partner and you were like, it's like, I swear this is cool. And I'm just like, maybe it is. I don't know.
You know what? I struggled with TikTok for so long because I thought of it as a business platform. I was like, you know, this is a great way to grow my platform, to grow my following, to share my music. And it was so depressing because I'd spend hours on this content and have very little validation, which is a terrible thing to say, but really that's why we post on social media, is for social validation.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I doing wrong? Am I just, not wearing enough of a bikini?
Am I not validated?
Yeah, am I not enough to be validated?
Yeah.
And then I kind of just stopped. I took a big break for a couple months, and then I started to post. Actually, I think like the first viral video I had, I put vitamin C on my hair.
Okay.
Because I regretted tying it brown, which a year later I did anyway, so fuck that.
Yeah.
Sorry, fudge that. And it hit like 1 million views, and then I did a video of my dad and it hit 1 million likes, and I was like, what? Like, this just doesn't even make sense. I like pranked my dad where it's like, what does CAL spell and what does VES spell, and then what does it spell together? And he's like, Calvez. And I was like, no, it's calves, but good try. And people loved it. Like all those video sharing ones on like Tic Toc and Instagram with like millions. They're like, hey, can we license your video? I was like, no, this is my dad. Like, screw off. And it didn't make sense to me. And then I started to realize that TikTok is strictly just entertainment. It's not anything you take for face value. And then my partner is in a wheelchair. He broke his back 4 years ago, or I guess 4.5 years ago now, racing motorcycles. And in Canada, we don't offer any sort of treatment beyond accident. We offer surgery for, bars or implants or anything like that. But as far as after injury, you're kind of just up to yourself. And I come from a very big dreaming family where I believe in possibilities and nothing is impossible and nothing is too big of a dream, and started to do some research because I just knew that if there was a way to get him back on his feet, I was going to be the one to find out. And I started to do a little bit of research of stem cells and realized it was a $100,000 treatment. And I was like, okay, well, there's that dream, and there it goes back down the toilet. And then I realized, hey, I've got this great app. There's amazing TikTokers on there. I mean, like at that point, Ellen hadn't been canceled, so I was taking Ellen it as well. David Dobrik had not been canceled at that point either. And I think he's kind of made a full circle, though. Thank God. He does a lot of good things for a lot of people, despite the controversy. And I started to dance. It was really silly. It had zero meaning, but I knew that if I could make some money to help my boyfriend walk again, it was totally worth it to me. So I started dancing in September, and the first video I think around hit 5 million views, and then we just started to go up from there. I ended up gaining about 400,000 followers in a couple months, and raised the $100,000 in 3 months, and it was great. So there, I haven't had a lot of success with my music, and I think it's really disappointing when you spend a lot of work putting together songs and videos and you get zero validation, and then you throw up a 30-second dance video that you spent 2 minutes on and it hits 6 million views, and you're like, what?
It's kind of like what is society that we live in?
Yeah, but I think I came to realize that people on TikTok love to support a good cause, and while the videos weren't like super interesting and the dances, they're silly, they wanted to see an underdog win. They wanted to see somebody have a miracle happen in their life, and they wanted to be a part of it. And so I think TikTok is a great platform if you're trying to spread the word, or you're just trying to have a good laugh, or you're just being silly and it doesn't matter. But if you take the app too seriously, it'll totally ruin you.
It has ruined me. No. I
gotta dance.
Yeah. I used it, I believe, like I think I'm on that like little bit of a roller coaster ride where it's like I'm not going to completely dismiss it, but I know like I'm at that age where I'm like, okay, I know the younger crowd like TikTok, where it's like if you want to dance, if you want to like, but there's still that little part of me that's like, why does this have so many views? And like it's not content, but this content doesn't have this many views. But I kind of get it, but I've only used TikTok really just to promote this podcast. Like some people are like, again, it's kind of hard to be crucial like a month in and be like, how come I haven't blown up? It's like, well, it takes longer than that. But at the same point, sometimes it's just a TikTok that people like to go to. And then I've known that I've got maybe a few TikToks because it comes over on Instagram too. So like, I think I've seen TikToks through Instagram, and there are a few that I'm like, you know what? Like that's actually pretty good. Like I think there's a guy that makes fun of Hallmark movies where he's like, he just goes like, this is a Hallmark movie idea. It's like, okay, what's the Hallmark? She rides a horse. It's like, she falls off the horse. She swears she never rides a horse again. It's like, and then her neighbor next door knows this like gorgeous horse rider. And then he teaches, and then they fall in love and they get married. I'm like, it sounds like
horse again.
And then it's like, he goes on about different ones. I'm like, it's stupid and it's simple, but I get it because I'm
Funny.
just like, it's
Yeah.
relatable. So
Yeah.
that's what I feel like TikTok is for like me. But there are TikTok ones out there that I'm just like, I don't get it. Why are you recommending this to me? This has nothing to do with anything I'm interested in. But
I
each
think
their own.
you gotta clear out your TikTok, unfollow everybody, and then like kind of start from scratch. Because my TikTok
Yeah.
has no ladies in bikinis. I literally just have people eating. It's all
Okay.
just ASMR mukbang videos of people shoving like chicken wings in their mouth, and I sit for hours and I just hear like. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I could like watch people eat Skittles all day long.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all my freaking
Yeah.
TikTok is.
Yeah. I try to follow like acts or whatever artists that like I guess that we've interviewed or I like just because I want to get more like the music side of things. Like I believe like Paige Rutledge had one where she showed you how to do like the rhinestone on her guitar. And like for the
Oh.
most times, that was everything I seen on TikTok. So I unfollowed everyone besides Paige. So if Paige is out there listening to this, feel lucky, Paige, because at one point you were the only person I was following. But like I was like, well, this is interesting. Like this is stuff that I think her fan base would like to know. And if you ever did want to like decorate your guitar, great. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I get the content there, but yeah, I guess you really have to look into it and be like, okay, what do you want to watch? Because I have people that will complain to me that I watch like people play old wrestling games and like, man, you are watching people play a game that you could play. I'm like, yeah, but it's just peaceful to me. Like I
Yeah.
use that to go to bed. I'll listen to like them play like a wrestling SmackDown game from like years ago. And I'm like, all right. It's like, really? You enjoy people like yelling at a game? I'm like, yeah, because I yelled at that game too. So like
It's
I can
relatable.
it's relatable. Yeah.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it with TikTok. You just got to pick your niche or your niche, however you want to say it,
Yeah.
and just go with it. I knew I didn't want TikTok to be too polished. I spend all my other platforms being about music, and Instagram drives me nuts because it's way too fake. And I just knew that whatever I do on TikTok would be silly and not make sense, and it would just be a good place to laugh. And if people wanted to know the real side of an artist, then that was the place to be.
I feel like there's a dynamic to that now as we get older. Like I feel like I grew up with MSN, so it's like the MSN chat where it was like that's how you would talk to your friends, engage with your friends. Then
Yeah.
became texting, and then like Facebook used to write on people's walls, and statuses used to have "is" in it. And like
Yeah.
I as a comedian, that's like I call it like a closet comedian because it's like I don't do stand up. It's just one of those things. I'm like I think this is funny, but I don't know if everyone else would. But it's like, what big of an ego would you have to have on Facebook when you're like 18 and it's like, Desiree is going to bed, call or text. I'm like, go to fucking bed, Desiree.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to, and like call or text, you're going to bed.
Yeah.
Or like, the generation that grew up with like, I guess, emo music too, where it's like, had such a bad day. It's like, don't call or text. And then you put in your text, like you put in your phone number. I'm like,
Yeah.
who's that for?
Or like I had a lot of friends where they'd post on Facebook. They're like, "Oh, new number, text me." And it was like the same number every single time, but it was just a way to get new people.
Yeah.
There's this guy. His name's Julian Smith. I don't know if you've seen his stuff on YouTube. He used to be like a comedy content creator, and he stopped years ago because social media just drove him nuts. And he's like, "What is this world coming to?" But his stuff is really funny, and he has this one video called "The 25 Things I Hate About Facebook," and it literally just talks about all those things. He's like, poking, what's like, why is poking a thing? And he does like a scene for everything, and I would recommend watching his stuff. He has a very twisted sense of humor.
That's the best kind.
Yeah, you would love it. Julian Smith, very funny. It's probably been a long time since he's created a short skit, but they're great ones to watch, especially the weird humor.
Yeah, because it's like the same with, I think people were like saying, if you go on like, because I had LinkedIn when I was trying to find work too, but it's like, to me, it's like LinkedIn is just like a business Facebook where it's just like, hey, this is everything I've accomplished. And it's like, oh, that's great for you. It's like, hold on, like you sound like you're talking to me like a person and not like a business. I'm like, okay, like deleting LinkedIn. It's like, whatever. Like, I don't understand. And it's like, Twitter to me is just more like the adult Facebook where you just make a rant, but you only have so many characters to do. So Instagram to me is like, hey, post a video of your rant and see if that trends. It's like, okay. It's like
or a really nice photo with the rant underneath.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I haven't mastered social media. It's something I'm sure if I wanted to like really dive into this podcast and be like, hey, like I want this to be successful, but like, I like genuine success where it's like people will listen to these interviews for the content, not just because I posted like a picture with like sappy music in the background, unless it's called for, but
yeah, or it's like click like Madison Olds ass wipe.
yeah. They're just like, what is, and it's like a picture of like someone wiping their ass and be like, I don't understand what that means. I want to ask you, when you were growing up, like I asked this to a lot of musicians that come on, just because, you know, everyone has a different kind of genre they were interested in or artists they were interested in. But like, where did you find your influence? Like, were you a much music kid? Did you watch much music and be like, I like that person?
No, we didn't have a lot of television growing up, so we had a TV.
Hold on, spit take. No.
we had a television, but it was like mostly VHS movies because my parents didn't want to pay for cable. So like some summers we'd have it, and like I would watch Disney all freaking day. But then there would be like 4 years where we just didn't have cable, and that was fine, and we were okay with it.
Yeah.
But I had this great CD player that if I danced too hard in my bedroom, it would skip, and I'd have to like kick it a little, and then I'd have to back up and like dance again. Yeah. But the albums, I distinctly remember, or the album, I guess, like there were songs. My dad would make mixtapes. It was great. There was like the oh gosh, Will Smith's Men in Black song that he did was on it.
Here come the Men in Black.
Yeah. Like that was on it. Space Jam was on it. I had Smash Mouth on it. But the one, I have to quickly look it up on my Spotify right now because the one album I had was World Click by D-Light.
Okay.
I don't know if you know D-Light. They have like the one song where it's like, what is love? It's like very, retro 90s. But that was the album.
Is that the one where it's like, what is love, baby? Don't hurt me. Oh.
But I think same era.
Okay.
Maybe like a little bit older. But I just like, my dad had this wall of CDs of, all these great 80s and 90s bands. And so I definitely grew up with music not around my time. Like I didn't listen to Backstreet Boys, I didn't listen to Britney, I didn't listen to like any of those artists. I literally listened to like U2, Yazoo, David Bowie, Queen, like all these bands, and a big one was actually Michael Jackson, and I don't even know if you can say that anymore. But
I feel that's safe to say. I feel like it's, listen, there's going to be people out there that don't like certain artists. We had this debate with other people where it was like, I think it was a debate that I said, like, you can still like the music and then debate the person. It's like, listen, I grew up listening to Chris Brown. I loved Run It. I loved like a lot of Chris. Yeah, but then it's like, then I'm just like, Chris, you're not helping me defend you anymore. Like, there's a point where there's a point when like, when he like did the thing with Rihanna, I'm like, okay, that's bad. I'm not defending you for that. But your music is still great. Same with Rihanna's. But then there's a point where it's like, now you're throwing things out of interviews. You're throwing chairs. I'm like, listen, I'll still listen to Run It. But if someone's like, yeah, Chris Brown wants to talk to you, I'm like, no, thank you. Like,
okay, I have the funniest Chris Brown story that is like first person experience that you're it's very funny, and I love getting to share this. So I had a band a couple of years ago called Beats and the Bare Bones, and we would go to Nashville a lot because we were working with Lennon and Stella's dad.
Yeah.
And so we go to the Sound Emporium, which is like the greatest studio, they say, and we go and we're really excited. It's our first day of recording. We're in the big studio, and all of a sudden the front desk lady comes up and she goes, there's a very high profile artist coming in and you guys can't use the bathrooms anymore. We're like, I'm paying just as much as he is to be here. I'm going to use the freaking bathroom if I want to use the bathroom. She's like, you can't use the bathroom. I was like, well, I'm going to use the bathroom. And so we had some people who were friends of the producer who like came and hung out, and one of my bandmates was in the bathroom and she locked the door, and so this other girl was like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and she like opened the door and there's Chris Brown having a deuce on the toilet, and she goes, I'm so sorry, and I like she comes out, and I like go running down to go to the bathroom, and like there's Chris next to one of his guys, and the guy grabs me by the arms and he goes, why them Nashville girls always look like this? And I'm like, ooh, don't touch me. And I'm like turn around and walk. It was just like the weirdest experience that we saw the king of deuces taking a deuce, and then they grabbed me by the arms. But yeah, that's my claim to fame.
Yeah. It's just like there's definitely like acts out there that it's like we were saying, like that you can still listen to the music, but just not like the one that I really kind of was like struggling with, and I know it's social media, so if you even posted this on social media, people would be like outright, like, let's cancel him. Let's like, no, it's like, well, you didn't actually listen to the whole debate, but okay. But it's like, like R. Kelly, I'll still listen to Ignition. Like I don't give a shit. Like like it's a great song, but that's not me going out there and saying to someone that's dealt with R. Kelly or people
Yeah.
that have or like dealt with the similar situations. I'm not going in their face and being like, this is a great song. It's like totally support R. Kelly. I'd be like, it's a good song.
Yeah.
Just if you have something against the song, fine. Like I'll turn it off. But it's like, for me, I'm not gonna like if I'm home alone, I'm not gonna be like, well, Melanie really doesn't like R. Kelly, so I can't listen to R. Kelly. I'm like, no. It's like I just don't listen to R. Kelly with Melanie. Like whatever. Like, like that's how it goes.
You know what? When the whole Headley situation happened, I knew a lot of people that worked with them. And
Yeah.
I think that there are people who made decisions that actually affected not only their career but everybody else's career. So I think when you write off a song, you actually write off just that artist. You write off every single person that's collecting royalties off of that. That's like paying their bills, paying for their children to go to school, paying for their groceries, paying their house payment. That like you can write off that artist, but don't hurt the art, because there are so many writers on it. There's so many producers, and I think that that's like such an important thing to say, that you can not support the artist and you can unfollow them, you can block them, you can spam their account, you can say whatever, report them, but don't hurt the art, because it's not just that person who's affected by it.
Yeah.
I think, something to remember.
I still like, and again, I feel like on this podcast, if you went back from episode 1 to where we are now, I feel like I'm a little bit more, I don't know what the word we'll call. I guess I was a little bit more like walking the line, where now I'm just kind of like, I don't give a shit. Like this is act like, you want to be more or less honest with yourself too. But like, I still listen to Headley. Like, I don't care. It's like, I think I've reached out to Jacob Poker. Like, I don't even know if it's a legit account, but I've reached out to him. Like, listen, you're going through some shit right now, but it's like, hey, if you ever did want to come on the podcast, like, listen, I support that. But it's like, at the same point, I understand the whole beside it. But like, I think there's a whole difference in canceling someone completely and then giving them a fair second chance. But at the same point, it's like, okay, it's still a fine line to some people, but there are definitely like artists or people out there that I'm kind of like, okay, like, yeah, they've not done the greatest things in the past, but they've turned it around. Like I'm trying to remember. I think it was like, what's the movie? I think it's like 21 Jump Street or whatever. They referenced the line of like, it's like, I used to hang out with Robert Downey Jr. or whatever, and that's when he was doing drugs, and that's when he was cool or something. I think that's like the mom's line in the movie. I'm like, I didn't know that about Robert Downey Jr. It's like, I just thought I was just a guy that was like really good at acting, but okay, like whatever. But yeah, there are situations like that. You're like, okay, like they turned it around, so give them a second chance. But then there's always going to be people that are like, no, I want to cancel someone else today.
I think the Biebs is such a great example of like should have been canceled but was not, and has totally come like full circle, and now people are like such Bieber stans and like, I'm a believer for life, man. I was like, where were you when he was spitting on girls? Like I'm sorry, none of us were believers. Like, we all abandoned ship, and now he's a husband and a homeowner, and he's a great person, and I just feel like it's hard to grow up as a musician, like to be that young, and I mean, let alone kids who don't end up on social media and on some huge billboard. You make mistakes. You TP your great aunt Sue's house, and you leave garbage in a park, and you're a delinquent, or maybe you're not, but you talk back to your mom. Like, mistakes growing up. And I think that it's intensified when you're in the limelight and you're becoming the superstar at like such a young age, and there just needs to be like a little bit of forgiveness. I know, but you become a musician and you like put yourself subject to that, but they're kids. I mean, you got to be kind to them.
Are you kind of a movie person? Like, do you sit around and watch a lot of movies?
I love movies.
It seems like such a that seems like one of those like, I'm gonna make fun of myself, but that seems like such like a first date thing where it's like, hey, do you listen to music? Do you like movies? And it's like, no, I don't like music and I don't like movies. I'd be like, check, please.
Yeah, I'm out.
yeah. What kind of movies do you like? I guess watch during, well, especially during COVID. Like, what kind of stuff were you watching
this year? I guess it's almost been a year since we started this. This is no. Maybe. We started at the beginning of the actually MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is crazy.
Okay.
I watched all the Iron Mans when they came out, but I hadn't watched like any of the Avengers movies or and then WandaVision came out and we watched WandaVision and none of it made sense to us. So we're like, oh, okay, well maybe we should go back and watch this from the beginning. And it's been like so great to follow. And then they just came out with the Loki series. I'm literally looking at a little TVA poster I have in my office because I'm obsessed,
Yeah.
and I just cannot believe how incredible the Marvel series, I guess Marvel universe is. It's
Yeah.
more than just a series. So that's definitely been one that I've loved through COVID. Obviously, Netflix is a big one for me and my partner as well. We like Lock and Key. Stranger Things is supposed to be coming out. Apparently, allegedly, I've been waiting years for it. But I like all that sort of fantasy, mystical
Yeah.
exist, but maybe there's a slight possibility that it could, and it just gives me hope that this massive flying rock that we're living on is like a little bit more magical than we think it is. An
That's
escape is
that's
what I look for.
that's fair. Like, do you have like? I'll give you my example, and you can give me one if you have one. But like, I know for say my birthday, if I'm happy, sad, I think Halloween, definitely at Christmas. But like, I have a movie that I'll go to and watch like all the time. Like, I think it's funny because How I Met Your Mother makes a reference of like when it's like Ted was dating. I can't remember the girl's name, but she was in like I think it was like Grey's Anatomy, and he's like, you have to like you better like Star Wars because he watches it when he's happy, sad, blah blah. And I feel
Yeah,
like that's like what my relationship with whoever I end up with. I'll just be like, if you don't like this movie,
yeah.
it's not like cutthroat. I'm gonna like no, but I just
I'll be
probably be like,
disappointed.
I'd probably die a little bit inside. But it's like and the reason I'll bring it up is because when I was, I had like a stroke when I was 12, so I was in hospital, and they have like a little small TV in your room. I was supposed to have another person with me. He ended up going home. I was like, oh, so I have this whole room to myself. And as a child, you're kind of like, well, I would have liked to have a buddy, but okay. But like TBS used to show like late night movies, and I believe it was like a random Thursday night, and it was like Mr. Deeds. And like I love that movie, and
I love
like
that
a
movie.
lot of people will shit on it because it's not the original Mr. Deeds goes to Washington and all that. But I'm like, to me, and I don't know if this will make sense to you, but it's like it's an Adam Sandler movie without overly being an Adam Sandler movie. It's like
Yeah,
it's not a lot of the cheap laughs or the shitty kind of humor, but it's still there. But it
yeah.
still gets to an essence, and they take it from the actual movie. And I like Winona Ryder's part of it as well. It's actually why I became a fan of Winona Ryder, even though she's done like plenty of stuff earlier. I'm like, no, this is my go-to movie with Winona. But
I love
do
we
you have
stand
one?
Winona.
Yeah, do you have
Um,
one of those?
I do, and actually this year for my birthday, I spent it just with my partner and I, and I'm obsessed with Harry Potter. When I was growing up, my parents, we grew up in like a very religious home, and magic was very frowned upon. We couldn't watch like Wizards of Waverly Place or like
Oh
That's
wow,
So
really? Okay.
Raven, Harry Potter. So when I turned 13, my brother moved to France. He was 18. He went to school there. He called me one day. He's like, hey, mom and dad, they're jerks because Harry Potter's freaking awesome. And I just watched it for the first time at 18. And I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I read the first two books in like 3 days. And I was like, oh my God. Like I literally have all the books right here too.
Oh wow,
Like
okay.
the geek is real. And I just fell in love with it. So I used to love Prisoner of Azkaban, but the Half Blood Prince is great. And so this year for my birthday, I was by myself with my partner and I bought a bottle of Giggle Water, which is like a reference from Harry Potter, and I made my own replica of Harry's birthday cake that Hagrid brought
Okay.
him on his first birthday in the first book, and it was like sat on with like the squiggly lines, and it was great. And I was actually wearing a Harry Potter shirt when I missed our time, and then I was like, oh
Oh,
crap, I gotta change,
oh man, the
and I
Harry
should have
Potter
worn
shirt would have
it.
the Harry Potter shirt would have been awesome. I like if I had more time, and I won't do it because I won't force it on you. But it's like upstairs, my niece has a we got her for Christmas because she really likes Harry Potter, which I thought was interesting because she's only like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, whatever, like, because they're big books. Like, even
Yep.
I, at that age, was not interested in reading these books. But I remember going and seeing the first movie, and then I was bummed out because I went and looked over to my dad, and he was asleep. And I was like, all
You
right,
missed it.
like, this kind of sums it up for me. But she has like a blanket upstairs, and it's only like an easy blanket for like a nap or whatever. But like, yeah, it had like all Harry Potter stuff on it. And like, full disclosure, when she's not here or having a sleepover and I'm tired, I will take out that because it's just a light blanket.
Cozy
And I
enough.
feel like she'll like come in one day and be like, that is my blanket. I'd be like, I know, but it's just I just like it because it's a light blanket.
It's the motto.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's that's
Um,
funny. Like the series is so old now too. Like when did the first movie come out? In the 90s, early 90s, early 2000s?
I
Late
want to go with early two. Yeah,
like
I
maybe
want to go with
2001, 2001.
yeah. That's what I was gonna make a guess at. I could look it up, but I was like, I don't.
That's crazy. I was like 3 or 4 years old when that movie came out. Actually, funny story. So I have this book right here, and this trend went on TikTok where there's a couple limited edition books
Okay.
that are worth about $7,000. So like some of it is where it's distributed from, if it's got certain numbers in the book, and if on I think it's page 51 or somewhere around there, 53, there's a shopping list. Yeah, there we go. On 53. And if Wand is listed twice, which mine is, then
Yeah.
it is the limited edition book.
Oh,
Now,
nice.
I have a dog who is a complete a-hole and got into my room and ate the cover. So this was worth $7,000 and now it's worth $3. So there we go.
Someone would still probably buy it. Just be like, I have the original series of the book, and like, yeah,
With
it's
my
a little bit chewed up.
packing tape on it.
Yeah. It's like when you go to university or college and you sell your books. Like mine were always in mint condition because it's like I kind of opened them but treated them like I have to sell these again at some point. But like you would get ones. I don't know how well it was in like Vancouver area of your school, but like when we were in like junior high and you weren't paying for your books, you would like literally like they would be falling apart. You'd look open a health book and someone like drawing glasses on a girl with a mustache. I'm like, I'm a bit confused.
If you were really lucky, the person before was like really good with sharing their notes, and there were notes in the whole book or like answers to tests, and you're like,
yeah,
oh, this is magic. Yeah. Keep this
so,
for later.
so like as a kid it's great, but as a kid when you've seen like, oh hey, this is going to be on your test or whatever, it's like, oh that's great if they give you the same test. But there's other times where it was like you would see some people would get so sketchy with it, and then like just say it's like a lady driving a bike, and then they'd make a speech balloon where it's like, I'm coming to get you. And I'm just like, this is more entertaining than what we're actually learning.
Sketches and memes.
Now, I know, like you said, you're a big Harry Potter fan. I came across this kind of to go off your point about when you said you just seen the Tobey Maguire clip the other day. I like seeing behind the scenes of films, whether like I really liked them or not. But they had one, and they used the song. I don't know the song's name, but it's supposed to be like going back in time, and it's like kill the lights. So they had one where I can't remember. It's like Harry Potter. I can't remember the guy's name now, but or it's Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah. So he was. You can hear his voice in the background saying that they pranked him by putting a fart machine in his sleeping bag, and the other two characters that are supposed to be like the bad guys had done it. And then you see, I think it's supposed to be a very serious scene, and then all of a sudden you hear the big like fart noise, and like those two guys laugh, and then all the extras laugh, and he's just standing there like it's super embarrassed about it. But I was like, that's kind of funny to see, because as a kid you literally thought these guys were like assholes, bad guys, and then as you get older you're like, oh shit, they're just actors and they're all having a good time. Like, okay.
I think my favorite is where like I watched an interview with the guy that plays the main antagonist to Harry Potter, so I think Tom Felton and Daniel Radcliffe, and he's like, there was a scene where they're like having a serious wand fight in a bathroom, and he goes, it's really awkward to tell somebody that I had a wand fight in a bathroom with my best mate. And I'm like, yeah, I bet it is. And I think that when you work on a series like that, you just have so much fun. And I guess Daniel Radcliffe actually struggled with alcoholism a lot.
Wow. Okay.
In like the 4th or 5th movie, and he said that he can't stand watching those movies because he doesn't remember any of it because he was drunk the whole time.
Wow.
And probably again coming back to that whole being really young and being super famous and not being able to handle it, I think that's probably like a lot of pressure, and from my understanding he's pretty cleaned up and doing a great job. But it's so weird.
It is interesting that you mentioned that, because I know like sometimes with this podcast we like to talk like mental health and stuff on the side, but like it's interesting that kind of concept when you see someone struggle and they come out on the other end, because for the longest time, and I don't mean like to make kind of light of it, but it's like I was looking at the character from Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin. I was like, man, like how has he just not, one day you see a note that says Macaulay Culkin just couldn't deal with the world anymore and he's gone. And then like there's a part of you that goes like, you feel, this is all retrospect, it's like in your own imaginary sick world, but it was like, man, like I could see why he did it. Like he was only famous for like, Home Alone and then the movie where he gets stung by bees. And then I'm like, yeah, I totally get that. And like that's as a child. As he gets older, they're kind of like, yeah, we don't want you anymore. You're not attractive to us anymore, kind of thing. But I'm like, good for him for doing his own like podcast. I think he was on like Jimmy Fallon not that long ago to support like I think it's like bunny ears, and like he's an actual pretty decent person.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, it's good thing that he got through that, because I could still imagine somewhere in like age 20 if you've read someone where like yeah, he committed suicide, because I'm like, oh, it's sad, but I get it. Yeah. It's the same with like the Jaleel White, I think, has a podcast now too, but like he was on like Family Matters with Steve Urkel, but like there was fake rumors about him committing suicide and then leaving a note of like, it's like I do that, and I'm like, I could probably see that, but at the same point I'm like, good for you for making it out on the other end.
Yeah, well, and like Macaulay Culkin is such an interesting one too, with like the whole Michael Jackson stuff, and I got reintroduced to Macaulay Culkin. His brother was in a Movie 43 episode, which is really funny. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but very funny. And the whole family is like pretty talented, but I watched a video for a pizza ad in New York where it was just like Macaulay Culkin opened up a bag of pizza, put some seasoning on it, and ate it, and then that was the whole ad. It was like a 3-minute commercial. Yeah. It was the weirdest thing, and I feel like that was his like reintroduction into Hollywood. And now he and Brenda Song, who was London Tipton from their parents, they're together, they're having like this beautiful healthy life, and it is really crazy to see just that whole turnaround for him. So that is great, and hopefully we'll be getting to see some stuff, and maybe he'll end up on SNL making fun of himself, or he'll redo a Home Alone thing. I
want to ask you, because I know we kind of went over like who you were listening to or getting the influence from with music, but now we're coming into 2020, which sounds crazy, because I literally relate to the Friends one where I think it's like Ross and Chandler punching Joey, and like one is 20, or it's like one is the year 2020, one is the year 2022, and you're 2020 in the middle. And I'm like, I get that, but I want to ask you, like, what do you see in 2022? Like, what are your plans? What are some things you're working on?
Man, that's
great response. I love that.
That's such a good question. I think I was hoping shows were going to be happening at this point, but everything that I've had has been canceled, and any plans that I've made for this year have totally been flipped upside down. So I'm not entirely sure what'll happen, and I am kind of taking a bit of a turn on my music. It's going to be a little bit more punky, a little bit more real, which I think will be fun. I've got a lot of pent up anxiety and aggression from the last 2 years, so I think the songs will have a lot of energy behind them. Hopefully a tour, that'd be really freaking awesome. Maybe go back to radio and definitely some Christmas music, but as far as like solid plans, like it's very up in the air. I mean, lifestyle stuff, I'm going back and forth to Colombia to help Derek with stem cells. We're going for a third treatment or his third, and I say weird because when you are you become one. You like that one episode of How I Met Your Mother where like Lily and one. That's me.
It's like we gotta go pee. It's like
we like oatmeal.
We like
and so I think like those are some big exciting things, but other than that, I mean, it's just enjoying life and trying not to get too down with the social situation. I think a lot of people are getting depressed and
down with the sickness.
Right. Like, thank God I haven't gotten COVID, and wear my mask, wash my hands, do everything you can to stay safe and stay educated on all the preventative measures and all that, and so I think as far as next steps, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. Whatever happens.
I feel like if I was a really good editor that time with like the down with the sickness, I would have someone clue in that whole like ooh ah, ah, ah sound. I'm just like like no, I can't do that. But no, like I agree with you. It's like it's been kind of a weird, I want to say like year and a half or so, but when you were saying like, hopefully doing tours again, I'm just like, listen, Madison Olds will come to Newfoundland in like 20 years. Like, No, she's like, I'm actually really young right now and I don't want to go, but like when I'm 50 and I need the money, let's go to Newfoundland. I'm like, yeah, that's fair.
I've never been to Newfoundland, but I have been to PEI.
Okay, it's an island. I'll accept it.
I mean, and the, kind of area, considering I'm from Vancouver.
Oh, absolutely. It's like me saying to somebody, it's like, oh yeah, I've been out to BC. It's like, where were you? I'm like, well, like Alberta, and they're just like, that's not the same thing. I'm just like, but from the east side of things, I get it.
Same.
Yeah.
But it was actually amazing. I went for the ECMAs. I fell in love with the East Coast culture, and I think they're actually probably pretty similar to like the West Coast, actual West Coast, like coastal
Yeah.
life.
Okay.
Very friendly, very easygoing, and I loved the vibe. So I would absolutely come back in a heartbeat to any island that would accept me. Obviously, COVID rules are right there. So hopefully, when things open up, I can come back over. I'm just gonna wipe my dripping nose because it's cold here. It's beautiful and the people are great and the music is amazing. So I, in a heartbeat, will come back before I'm 50. I swear to God, if it's not before I'm 25 in 2 years, I will be very upset.
Yeah, I want to ask you to kind of clue it up. Do you want to play a very kind of a random fun game?
Yes, I'd love to.
All right. I'm going to throw out some random questions. They're going to be like, you can pass on them. It's not like one of those things where it's like, hey, you better answer this.
Question.
Yeah. I want to ask you, do you remember, I guess, your like most embarrassing moment?
Yeah, I used to competitively dance, and there was this really cute. That's not the embarrassing moment.
I was just going to stop you there and be like, oh my God, that is it. Okay.
And we used to go to these dance conventions, and there was this really cute breakdancer boy from the island of Victoria or Nanaimo or somewhere. We all creeped him and found him on Facebook because we were obsessed.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And we were all like really into him. He was really cute. He could breakdance and spin on his head. And we're like, oh my God, he's so cute. And he always wore like this purple toque. And we're like, oh my God, it's Purple Toque guy. Yeah. And I had two friends that just thought it would be really funny as we're walking past him to pants me, walking up the stairs. And so that's definitely one of my favorite moments.
One of your most embarrassing
My
moments.
most embarrassing. I mean, it's definitely a good one too. So it's like most embarrassing and one of my favorite moments.
I guess another kind of random question would be, like, do you remember, I guess, the first song that you ever learned, like a first cover that you ever learned?
Yeah, it was Crazy by, is it Gnarls Barkley?
Oh, really? Okay.
Make me crazy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I feel like if you asked a guy with a guitar what his like first one was, it would probably be like Wonderwall.
Yeah. Or Smoke in the Water.
yeah. I feel like I grew up with a lot of people that just like Wonderwall. I like Wonderwall, but it's like to the point where it's like, I'm gonna put my own twist on it. Listen, Gary.
Yeah.
Doug tried it. Keith tried it. We just want the original. If you can't perform the original, leave it be.
Yeah.
Do you remember, I guess, like with I'm just trying to remember another random one here that we can. I'm just trying to remember, but I got one here now. Do you remember, like, I guess your first celebrity or first musician that you ever met and like were you starstruck?
First celebrity or musician I ever met where I was starstruck. I don't even know if I've met anybody like crazy. Famous.
Gnarls Barkley.
I wish.
Yeah.
Then I would freak out. Actually, no. I met Miley Cyrus's sister Noah at a tattoo shop. She told me I had nice makeup. I screamed at her, "It's Sephora!" And I walked away because I was so nervous. Billy Ray Cyrus was in the back getting his like arm tattooed. Actually, my dad and I wanted to go get tattoos while we were in LA recording. Yeah. Thank you. And I was like, oh, there's this shop just down the street. And they're like, yeah, like, you know, it's Studio City. A lot of celebrities, you might run into somebody. And I like totally bumped into Noah Cyrus. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she's like, that's okay. I really like your makeup. And I was like, thanks, it's Sephora. And I was like totally freaked out. And then I was like, Dad, we need to get out of here. And he's like, why? Like, I thought we were getting tattoos. And I was like, no, we need to get out of here right now. Because that's a mullet back there. And that's Billy fucking Ray Cyrus. And he's like, oh, okay, we need to go.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I feel like for me, it's like I don't think I had. I know, like for sports wise, I've met like James Duthie, who was just like TSN. But like other than that, I don't think I've like physically met a lot of people like doing this stuff I have. But it's funny to me because someone will always ask like, well, if you ever met these people, like how would you act? And I don't know. I don't want to blame it on a disability, but it's like to me, it's kind of like I look at it, and maybe it's just being a Newfoundlander too. But it's almost like I just see them as a person. Like if I bumped into Noah Cyrus or Billy Ray, like there might be the one moment where I'm like, okay, like that was Billy Ray Cyrus. But another part of me, like you're just talented for music.
Yeah.
So, but you're still a person that's going about their day. And I say that knowing full well if I ran into Conan O'Brien, I'd probably be like, hey Conan, how's it going? And they'd be like, really? That's all you're gonna say to Conan? I'm like, just be happy I got that out.
I think it was because it was like such a normal life moment where I was like, there's no way you just run into celebrities like this. Because my brother's been in a couple films and sorry, my dog barked.
He's like, so am I. I've been in a couple of films too.
No, not me. And I met like Luke Perry. I met the girl that plays Carrie Ann Moss from The Matrix. I met Kaylee Cuoco, and it was all just like super normal stuff where I was just like, it's like a super professional sense when you like walk on set. You're like, oh, okay, like, you know, great job. You're here to do your job. I'm here to be the little sister. You know, we all have our part to play. But when you're just like out and about and you see a celebrity, you're like, oh my God, that's so and so. And you're just like, there's no way that you go to the same shop that I shop at. I'm a mere peasant. And you're just like, am I awesome?
Yeah.
I think that's why you
imagine if that's what you asked them. Am I awesome too? Because and then they're like, we have to find another store now.
Dad, we need to go.
Yeah. I feel like we had a musician on named Troy, and like he was involved. I think it was like not iCarly. It was the other one that's it still reruns on like YTV. It's blanking on me now. But he was in one of those shows as well. And I said to him like, Victorious, there you go. And I said, do you ever go up to like, I guess it's Victoria or whatever her name is, and like ask her like, hey, like you're both in music? And he's like, no, man, I'm literally here to do this role. That's it. He's like, it's funny because we're like both represented by like, I guess, similar agents, but he's like, never. It's just pretty much, we're both 20-odd-year-olds. We're just going to do this part, whatever. He's like, because you don't want to be known as that guy where it's like, hey, I got this small role, but hey, well, I got you. Can I ask you these questions? I'm like, I would. It's like, if you don't get cast again, I'm just like, okay, then you kind of look at that and be like, I guess I didn't like that. But I'm like, there's also a side of you that would be like, all right, I guess I know what kind of person they are. So, you know, each their own. But if someone walked up to me tomorrow and was like, listen, I'm really just starting a podcast. What do I do? I'm like, I can give you tips, but if you become more successful than me, kudos to you. But it's like, you know, just at least acknowledge that I gave you tips. Yeah.
Throw me a bone.
Yeah. I guess the last question I want to ask you, and then we'll kind of clue it up here. But the last kind of random question is, like, if you had to pick, like, I guess a perfect day to do either, like, any activity you wanted, or like a perfect day in general, like what kind of things would you do on that day?
Oh, a perfect day. I'd wake up, I'd have a nice cup of coffee because I freaking love coffee. It is the only food group that I give a shit about. And I'd probably, my favorite thing, I mean, growing up in the West Coast, you really love mountains. And I think when you go to somewhere that doesn't have mountains, you feel like really vulnerable or almost like naked. Like you just feel really exposed. So like a perfect day for me would be shutting off my phone and just going to the mountains. And, you know, it's a really emotional experience if you haven't had a chance to hike up a mountain or sit on a mountainside. And not to bum things down, I recently lost a friend to suicide, and her favorite thing in the whole world was mountains. And so now more than ever, I feel like that's probably like the only place I would ever want to be.
I didn't want to bring it up, but because you kind of mentioned it, like I noticed in one of your recent, I guess it was like Instagram posts, were you getting a tattoo or something for her memory or? Yeah.
I've got so the butterfly represents my camera's backwards. Excuse me. But the butterfly represents like somebody who's lost that now has like come to visit you, or it kind of represents beginnings. And when she passed, the day after, everybody was met with butterflies who knew her, and I was sitting in the backyard and a butterfly came up to me with a broken wing and just sat beside me, and it felt like her. And so for me, it was just like a nice way to keep her by my heart all the time. And also tattoos are badass, so you know, kind of a little mix of both. I'm not
an overly tattoo person. Now I lost a teacher when we were in like high school because he had cancer, and when I went to I think it was like was it sports journalism? We knew a kid who had cancer. So like cancer's kind of big. I also had a neighbor that like passed away to cancer, but I made these two little like wristbands. So I made these ones for our class, and then I think his parents gave me this one that says Thomas on it. So like they're like, it's nothing big. Like I know these things were probably bigger when you were younger, but I'm like, I don't care. It's like the littlest thing that you can wear. Yeah. And like, it doesn't affect like your arms or anything. It's funny because when I go to soccer, they'll tell me to take them off. I'm like, really? Who is this fucking hurting? like, oh shit, your wristband whipped me. I'm like, it's rubber. Like, I'm sorry that you're a LaFlop James. Like, sorry. But
you know what? The smallest things mean the most, though. It's the same. I have this ring that I got, and we didn't even get it together. But when we were coming back from getting poutine one time, we found a matching one sitting on the ground, and she picked it up, and she's like, "It matches yours, like it's meant to be."
Yeah.
And so when she passed, I hadn't been able to find it for years, and for some reason it showed up on my bedside table. It was really weird, and I haven't taken it off since. And it's funny how just sentimental value doesn't mean it has to be a big thing or an expensive thing or a permanent thing. It just has to have sentimental value.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to Madison Olds for coming on to the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying, thanks for listening and good night.